Secondly, since you were talking about this campaign against ISIS, will we be bombing Al-Nusra together anytime soon? Because Secretary Kerry and Minister Lavrov seem to agree on this, but today at the Pentagon they asked Peter Cook, and he basically said, oh no, I'm sorry, it was not the Cook, it was the general from the battlefield. He said no preparation was being done in terms of intelligence. So will we be bombing Al-Nusra together?
Well, Andre, what the case that we have made directly to the Russians is they should use their special influence with the Assad regime to enforce the cessation of hostilities, to get back to a place where the Assad regime, with the support of the Russians, is not attacking innocent civilians. And that's not happened. And that is a violation of commitments that Russia made in the context of a cessation of hostilities. And that has prevented, frankly, it's exacerbated a humanitarian situation because it has prevented an increase in humanitarian assistance that can be provided. It has exacerbated the political situation around the diplomatic talks that we've been working together to try to facilitate, because opposition leaders don't want to come and sit at the negotiating table with the Assad regime as long as the Assad regime, that's being aided and abetted by the Russian government, is carrying out attacks against civilians that they supposedly represent. So the truth is, the United States continues to be concerned both about the failure of Russia and the Assad regime to live up to the commitments that they made in the context of the cessation of hostilities, but also about the continued presence and activities of extremist organizations inside of Syria. And we have said for quite some time that we would welcome Russia not using their military might to buck up the Assad regime, but rather to focus entirely on going after extremists. And if they were prepared to do that, the United States would be prepared, and our coalition partners would be prepared, to work more effectively with them. But thus far, Russia has refused to do that. So the truth is, the question right now is one that relates directly to the credibility of Russian leaders. Are they going to live up to the commitments that they've made? And if so, we can begin doing the important work of more effectively coordinating our efforts to go after extremists that we know threaten both our countries, and the continued efforts of the Russians to prop up the Assad regime only makes it easier for extremists in Syria, who we know thrive on chaos, to bolster their positions in that country.
I guess the Russians would say that the biggest priority is going after the extremists. Do you agree with that?
We certainly believe that the priority should be placed on going after extremists. Unfortunately, the conduct of Russian military activities has been inconsistent with that claim. That Russian military activities have devoted significant time and attention and resources and energy to supporting the Assad regime and to further against opposition fighters in Syria. The point is that the more that they do that,
The moderates.
excuse me?
The moderate opposition fighters. But there are no moderate opposition fighters. That's the point.
The point is, Andre, as long as the Russian military continues to buck up the Assad regime, it only foments greater chaos in Syria. It only makes a diplomatic resolution and a political transition that President Putin himself said is necessary farther off into the distance. And the farther off that political transition is in the distance, the more chaos there is in Syria in the near term. And that chaos is something that we know extremist organizations thrive upon. That's why we believe that Russia should live up to the commitments that they've made, enforce the cessation of hostilities, not devote so much energy and attention to fortifying the Assad regime, and actually working more effectively with the international community to go after extremists. Once Russia has demonstrated a commitment to actually doing that, then I would be much more optimistic about the ability of the United States and Russia to work more effectively together inside of Syria.
And lastly,